Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 360 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I am Mike Eilon, and today we're going to start a little bit differently. I'm actually going to play a video that is featuring our next guest.
I'm Molly Welch. I was a student at Auburn, and I was a journalism major, and I wanted to write for a newspaper. On February 9th, 2008, a day I don't remember, there was a split second when my life changed. I was on I-85, and I was one exit from Auburn. I went head-on with a pickup truck. Oh, I was in a coma, and I don't remember months before. The doctor told me I had a 50-50 chance of pulling through the first night. I relearned how to walk and talk. It was hard. I went from the bed to a wheelchair to a walker to a cane. It took me about 2 to 3 years to relearn how to walk, and another 4 to 5 to relearn how to talk. I've had to relearn the simple things like brushing your teeth and combing your hair. It's a never-ending process. I don't get angry that often because I just look at it as something I have to do, and maybe someday I won't. A second later is saving a life and teaching others about dangers of distracted driving. When people choose to ignore the dangers of distracted driving, I want them to envision my face. Now I'm giving speeches to various high schools. High schoolers are just beginning to drive, and they need this the most. And the reaction from the kids was amazing. There was one young man who came up to me and told me he would have dropped out of high school until he heard my speech. And that just made me speechless. I mean, what do you say to that? If there is one thing I want people to take away from my speech, is never give up. You've got to keep on pushing, and I know it gets hard, but you can't quit. One of the things I've learned since the accident is never take life for granted and appreciate the small things in life.
Wow. What a story. What an incredible, incredible story. So hold on one second. Oh, looks like another video came on in the background. Let me turn that one off. And I think we're ready to roll. So, fun fact, I am definitely not the best driver in the world, especially when I first got my license. I was more concerned with the right song playing on the radio as I drove by all the popular hangouts in town at 16 years old. And I remember one time I was so busy messing with the radio buttons that I didn't even notice the person in front of me had stopped short. I actually hit his back bumper, and luckily nobody was injured. He didn't even have any damage to his car. But I always thought that I was incredibly lucky that day that I didn't hurt anybody. And we're going to talk a little bit more about distracted driving today. Our next guest is Molly Welch. 13 years ago, she was in a head-on collision with a pickup truck that caused a traumatic brain injury due to her distracted driving. Molly was in a coma for 3 weeks and she had a 50-50 chance of living. Later, she was only minimally conscious for months. And next, she had to relearn everything from walking to talking. The doctors thought that she would be in an immobile state for the rest of her life. In fact, one doctor told her parents that she may not wake up, but if she did, the sky would be the limit. And it sure is. Welcome to the show, Molly.
Thank you.
It is an honor to have you on the show for just such an incredible story, but really an important lesson, I think, to all of the college students who are listening today, because this incident actually happened when you were in college at Auburn University. So, before we get into what happened during the accident, you obviously decided on Auburn, which is a fantastic institution for your undergraduate experience. And I'm sure you had some choices in terms of where you could have went to school. So I'm wondering what made you choose Auburn?
Well, I was in Georgia at the time, so most all my friends were UGA fans. Therefore, so was I. But I applied to UGA, was waitlisted, and then rejected. But if I could go back, there is no way I would have even applied because War Damn Eagle.
Words amical is absolutely right. Well, it all obviously, it made a lot of sense for you to be certainly at Auburn, and you got a lot out of that experience. You were actually a writer for the Plainsman at Auburn. So I'm wondering, and maybe our listeners are wondering too, what drew you to journalism in particular, and then writing for the paper at Auburn?
Well, honestly, I was terrible at math and science, so I tried to choose the furthest thing from it. But I also loved people and I loved taking interviews of them. Just knowing a small part of their story helps me connect. I still love people, but my voice suffers. Um, and but it's improved a whole lot, and so it's just not quite where it was.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you and I are alike in many ways, in that obviously I love to do interviews too. You're episode number 360 on the Fraternity podcast. So I
Mm.
love just learning about different people and learning about their experiences. And then, of course, sharing their experiences with other college students, because I think there's something to learn here. And so that's really what it's all about, is leaving that lasting legacy, an interview that somebody can come back to maybe years after I pass away one day, and they learn something from it, and that's ultimately all I really want. But talk to us a little bit about what happened that day in your car when you looked down to hit record on your handheld recorder while you were driving your car. What happened that day?
Well, I am and was a huge multitasker. So I was trying to catch up on an interview that was or article that was due while driving, which was so foolish. And anyways, I believe I was listening back to the recorder, dropped it, reached back down to pick it up because I drove clear across the median and head on with the pickup truck. Now, I don't remember the accident itself or months before, but the entire thing was recorded on tape. I mean, everything from the country song I was listening um, to the sound of this gentleman saying, "Breathe easy, help us on the way," the sounds of sirens and paramedics, and then it just cuts off. So I must have clenched the record button upon impact with the truck.
Wow, that what a story. I mean, that could happen to anybody. As a matter of fact, I mean, a couple of months ago, my daughter, she's in high school, and so her and her friends are all learning how to drive. And her best friend literally just dropped a drink in her car. She reached down to pick it up, and then sure enough, she got into an accident. Luckily, it was just kind of the side of the car was impacted in that accident. And again, luckily nobody got hurt that day, but it easily can happen to anybody. I mean, every one of us has been in that situation where we drop something and we go to pick it up, and it could be a near death experience for anybody. So obviously, you went head on with this pickup truck after you crossed the median. Talk to our audience a little bit about what your recovery was like in terms of the physical, occupational, and speech therapy that you had at Shepherd Center in Atlanta.
Well, speech therapy and physical therapy were my strong therapies, mainly because they were the therapies that I made the most progress in. Um, Physical, I went from a bed all the way to a cane. Now, just um, a month ago, I was doing three therapies at once. Um, you think I'm kind of desperate because I'm so obsessed with walking? Um, well, I do. But speech therapy, I went through years and years um, of articulation, pronunciation, and then I had to relearn how to swallow and think. So it took me a long time. But occupational therapy, I don't really want to talk about. I'm just waiting on them to come out with the new surgery that is a stem cell, where they take the stem cells from the carotid artery and replace them in damaged parts, and your arm can wake up. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's just amazing, the stuff that science is coming up with, that we're able to do, now and in the future. Just incredible stuff. And I can't even imagine just what that road is like for you in terms of the physical and the speech therapy, to relearn how basic things like how to swallow, things that we do without even thinking. You have to relearn. And so I can't even imagine how hard and how difficult that is to go through. What was the impact on completing your degree at Auburn after the accident?
Well, words can't describe it. I mean, I I can't even begin to start to describe how amazing I felt. But what I can describe is my little brother also went to Auburn. He was 18 months younger than me, and I still beat him by 2 hours, but I beat him, so I'm really proud.
I like that you're really competitive too. That's awesome. So, to our listeners, I mean, like I said, I think every one of us, myself included, has been a distracted driver at some point. Whether you drop something or you're playing with the radio, or you look at your phone to look at a text or something like that. So, how can the students who are listening right now, how can they stop distracted driving themselves?
Well, I want you all to listen up. Before you put your car in drive, make sure all your adjustments are covered. Like you adjust your hair, your makeup, the radio, you finish your conversation, you eat. And if that takes 2 or 5 or 10 minutes and you're late for your appointment, then at least you could have saved your life and other lives.
Yeah. That's really great advice. I completely agree with you. It's just, I mean, I know just like you, I mean, being a multitasker, I think students are so pressured for time. They want to try to, get everything done in terms of their schoolwork, their job, their fraternity and sorority, their significant others, their family, etc. And they're always just trying to multitask and do a million things at once. And so maybe this is just a lesson in just doing one thing at a time. And maybe that's what we need to focus on. You've spoken at so many different places: TEDx Emory, McKinney's, healthcare IT leaders, the Georgia legislation, a ton of high schools, even Drive Smart Georgia. What kind of reaction do you get from the students and the participants who hear your speaking program?
Well, the students, um, some come to me crying, telling me about loved ones that have been in similar situations and they weren't so fortunate. Or some of them just need a hug, and I'm so um, honored to be receiving all that love.
Yeah, that's got to be a great feeling. I'm sure you're more than happy to give them a hug if that's what they need. I mean, it seems like this particular program could be a really good fit for corporate sponsorships as well. I mean, I know where I live in Franklin, Tennessee, literally in my town is the corporate headquarters for Nissan North America, for Mitsubishi North America. Is this program something that could be a good fit for a corporate partnership as well?
Yes, everyone needs my message about the dangers of distracted driving. Every age, I've talked to fifth grade up to adults. Um, and so I do have to change my speech a tad, because the humor isn't that funny for an adult as it is for a fifth grader. So
I think it's going to be great no matter what audience you have in front of you. I have full confidence that you can get the message across and get them to laugh. I think you're an absolute joy. So I'm sure that you're going to do well no matter what the audience is.
thank you.
So, I mean, what's next for you, Molly? I mean, what does the future look like? What do you want to be doing?
Well, I want to spread my message all across the United States,
Okay.
whether that's to like driving schools and high schools, whether that's through Zoom or in person. See, in person is better. It's not better, but just more. Um, it shows the audience the difficulties that I go through, but Zoom is a lot easier for me and for everyone because you don't have to leave your bedroom. But I'm not sure if I want to go outside of the United States yet.
Got it. Well, it makes total sense to me. I mean, thank goodness we have Zoom now. It enables you to do it right from your bedroom. That makes it super easy. So that's obviously an option. Students also do like to have that in-person conference as well. They like to have that two-way conversation in person where they get a chance to ask you questions and other things, because I'm sure they have a whole bunch of questions in their minds. And I think this is a really powerful program. So I'm just so happy that you have all these different options here to get to high school students, college students, even adults, like you said. And you know what? We do love great food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. And I do get to Atlanta pretty often for conferences. I speak at their local universities. It's only 4 hours down the road. It's not all that far from me. So when you're looking for a great meal, and let's say you're in the Atlanta area, where do you go for a great meal?
I would have to say the sundial at the Westin. Um, they slowly bring you around so you can view all of Atlanta. I've never been there before, but I would love to go there.
All right, Molly, that's a deal. I'm going to take you up to the sundial. We're going to have some dinner up there and go check out all of Atlanta. Is that all right?
It sounds good.
All right. Next time I'm in Atlanta, I'm going to give you a call. This is going to
All
be a
right.
lot of fun. All right. So, if our student listeners, if they want to bring you in to speak on their college campus, where should they go in order to connect with you?
Well, you can either go to my website at asecondlater.com or you can email me at a second later media, or you can look on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
That's perfect. So it's a secondlater.com. The email address is a secondlatermedia@gmail.com. So make sure you get a hold of Molly and invite her to come and speak on your college campus about distracted driving. Because I tell you what, again, I think it's something that everybody has been caught doing at one point or another. So I think, what happened to you, it could happen to any of us. And if you can help save a life, I mean, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. So I respect, the fact that you're willing to come here and share your story with our students. And I hope that it's something that the students are going to listen to and think about the next time that they potentially are going to be distracted driving. So thank you so much for sharing the message, Molly.
Thank you.
Of course. And to our listeners, if you like this conversation with Molly, make sure that you like it. Make sure that you share it on social media with some of your other fraternity brothers, sorority sisters that need to hear this message, and just other college students to make your college campus a bit safer. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much. Bye for now.